Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. My name's Isaac, and today we will be walking through our exercise portion for Chapter 5 of the LC101 Java track. This is covering classes and objects, Part 2. So we have three pieces of code to do as part of this exercise. If you haven't already, please make sure you go to the GitHub, fork over the exercises so you can keep up and have some of this starter code for us, well, for yourself, and even some of these to-dos. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So we have three pieces to execute. The first one is the get grade level method, which will return the student's level based on the number of credits they have. So freshman is 0 to 29 credits, sophomore is 30 to 59 credits, junior is 60 to 89, or senior is 90 plus. We also have an add grade method here, which will accept two parameters, a number of course credits and a numerical grade, so 0.0 to 4.0. And we'll use this to update the GPA. Here's just some information on how to compute the GPA, total quality score divided by number of credits. And here are the steps to determine and update the new GPA. We'll actually be reviewing this side by side with the code, so I'm not going to get too deep into this rabbit hole because it is a little confusing, but once we start going through it, you'll kind of understand it more. And we have toStrings and equals. These are going to be the classes that we're going to override so we don't get that generic path that we have in the past. But we're going to discuss those once we get to them. So for now, we'll just go ahead and get started with our first one, which is get grade level. So just remember, a freshman is 0 to 29, a sophomore is 30 to 59, a junior is 60 to 89, and a senior is 90 plus credits. So I'm going to swap over to IntelliJ. If you haven't found the code information already, just open your Java project's information and scroll down to your demos. You can scroll down to lesson 4 classes 2, my apologies, and open up students and courses. That should help you get things rolling. And we're just going to go ahead and get started with the first piece, which is actually right here. So our to-do says just uncomment and complete the get grade level method here. So I'm going to uncomment that. Oh, shouldn't have uncommented the to-do. Okay, so it's a public static string get grade level method, which takes the int credits and does something with them. So to me, if you say, hey, if this is this, then do this, or if this is this, then do this, that's an if statement. So we'll start with an if statement. And you can get fairly granular, like if credits is greater than 0 and credits is, well, hang on, if credits greater than 0 and credits is less than or equal to 29, then return freshman. Okay, so you can get this granular, but technically speaking, you don't need this piece or the and sign, so we can remove those. And let's just try running this and see if freshman is going to function correctly. We do have a piece of code down here already done, so we're just going to hit run, and we have our system out print lane, the student class works, and then our system out print lane get grade level while passing the number of credits from Sally. So we're just going to hit play. Sing return statement. What is going on here? No, that doesn't look right. No, because then we wouldn't be able to return everything. So, I don't know. I personally kind of like this, just because it's kind of fun to debug live. I mean, if you're not debugging live, then are you even doing content creation? So we're just going to take this missing return statement on an if statement. So Java missing return statement if else. Okay. Missing return statement within an if else. So let's see. Has a question. This is the same thing that's happening with us. If condition return X, and they did try changing it to void and using system.out.println, but they got something wrong. So let's check what's going on here. Okay, so if you put a return statement in the if, while, or for statement, then it may or may not return a value. If it will not, go inside these statements, and the method should also return some value that could be null. To ensure, the compiler will force you to write this return statement, which is after if, while, or for. But if you write an if-else block, and each one of them is having a return, then the compiler knows that either the if or else will get executed, and the method will return a value. So this time, the compiler will not force you. So the reason why this isn't working is because it's registering the return here in the if, but if this is not functioning as expected, it actually still needs to return something. So let's go ahead and try just doing an else return. And let's just go ahead and code the whole thing out. So now we already know that when we have an if statement, the if is the first part, but if we have another or even further criteria, we use the else if statements. And here we'll use credits is less than or equal to, let's see, we said 0 to 29 for freshmen, 30 to 59 for sophomore, else if credits less than or equal to, we said, I believe, 60 to 89 for juniors. Return junior. And so we can do another else if statement here, but if all of this fails, we want to have an escape condition, which is kind of, well, not escape condition, but we want to have a catch-all, which is why we needed a return. So we'll just do else here. And remember, with else, you don't really need criteria, just return senior. Now, what this will do, and we can get more granular and say credits is greater than or equal to 30, and then here we can say credits is greater than or equal to 60, and we can do that. It's not 100% required because here it's already checking to see if credits is less than or equal to 29. If that's not the case, then it would check using this anything between 30 and 59. This is just making it a lot more verbose, I believe is the term, but for now we'll just keep it as is. Now let's try running Sally. There you go. Now with 1 credit, Sally is definitely a freshman. So let's try changing it up. Let's say that she has 37 credits. That should bump her up to sophomore, right? Yep, so sophomore. Now let's say that she's really been hammering down and she's got 74 credits. So now she's got junior status. Now, let's say that she has 90 credits on the dot. when we run, she should show as a senior. So this code is officially giving us everything that we need to satisfy the conditions for the get grade level method. So we're done with that. We're going to go ahead and proceed to the add grade method. And for this one, we're just going to put this and IntelliJ side by side. So just to get started with this, we'll actually uncomment this. Okay, so we're passing two arguments, int course credit and double grade. And here it says that we need to calculate a student's current total quality by using the formula GPA times number of credits. So if we remember, so let's see, total quality score is going to be a number. So we'll do double total score equals, and here we're actually going to do this dot GPA times this dot number of credits. Okay, so remember this modifier points to the object, so you're getting the existing values for whatever the GPA is and whatever the number of credits are for whatever object you're passing this argument into. So this right here satisfies number one, which calculates current total quality score. And we're just gonna copy this and paste in here. Okay, so that's step number one. Step number two is use the new course grade and course credits to update their quality score. So from up here, we can see that the total quality score is the sum of the quality score for all classes, and the quality score for a class is found by multiplying the letter grade score by the number of credits. So here we can do total score, and we're actually going to be adding to the existing calculation we did above. So we would do multiply the course credits, which is number of credits, by the grade, which is the letter grade. So we'll do course credits times grade. Now we're actually using the pieces that we passed in here. And this is actually updating total quality score. All right. So now we have all of this stuff that we're doing to total score. Let's go ahead and continue on to the next piece, which says update the student's total number of credits. So we can access the student's number of credits by doing this dot number of credits and plus equaling the number of credits the course credits that we're passing up here. So this dot number of credits plus equals course credits, and here we just add course credits from existing class to total for student. Okay. And now we just compute our new GPA. And remember, according to here, your GPA is your total quality score divided by your total number of credits. We've calculated our total quality score here. So total score will hold that value. And our number of credits, we've just plus equals what we have here. So here, we can actually just do this dot GPA, because that's what we're updating. We're computing new GPA equals, and we should be able to do total score divided by number of credits. And this should compute new GPA. One thing to note here is this is a void. So we're not actually expecting to return anything, but we should be able to call these individually, which we can. We can do number of credits, return number of credits, get number of credits. Yes, we can do that. We can do get GPA. Yes, we can do that. And they're all doubles and ints. So this piece of code right here satisfies all of the requirements for here. It's kind of confusing the way that they explained here, especially with this, but it makes sense once you actually take it step by step. That's the biggest advice I can honestly give you. When you have code like this, take it one step at a time. Don't feel intimidated by it. Just make sure that you can go, okay, well, you know what? Let me just start from the beginning and go from there. Okay, so now we're going to do our toString method. And this is fairly easy to outline. We've done this in our in the course. So public string toString. And here we're just going to return. And here it just says that our toString method should just be well-formatted string rather than just the class fields. So here we're going to return the class for, and we have what, 4 fields? Name, student ID, number of credits, GPA. So we're actually going to do, instead of the class, we're going to do student plus, and we're going to do name plus student ID plus student ID plus and we have number of credits in GPA. Current GPA plus GPA plus current credits plus number of credits. So if we do this, first let's just see what the toString would have printed if we didn't have this. So we can do this one and just play. And so we have this very weird string right here, which doesn't make a lot of sense to us. Now let's uncomment the toString class method that we just did and try running this again. So now we have student Sally, student ID 1, current GPA 4, current credits 90. So I believe that this should meet the criteria of being a well-formatted string instead of just the class fields. So that was fairly simple. Now, one thing I want to say about your equals method is, as we saw during the exercises, there's a lot to consider than just, oh, make sure that identity versus equality. So we're actually going to go ahead and go back to our reading. Don't be afraid to look back in the book. I mean, that's what it's there for you to learn. So we're going to go to equals. And technically speaking, this kind of gives you the answer at the beginning, but it also poses certain questions to ask. So your custom equals method is going to be a Boolean because it will return true or false. So public Boolean equals, and we're going to do a student target. Okay. And student, the student is equal to student target. What we're doing here is we're doing a new instance of student and passing the target information into it. Then we're going to do the student. Well, first let's do a return. Return the student dot. And for this particular piece, the student, the get student ID would be best, just because the student ID will be the one piece of information that is static and will probably never change. So we're going to do get student ID. We're going to do doubles equals and get student ID. So what this will do is this will compare and get the student ID for the student that we passed here. And this will get the student ID for whatever student ID is on, and let me see if I can do that. So let's do student, the student dot equals student target. So if we had Sam, Sam here would be the target, and the student dot equals would be which student ID is being retrieved here. So that is the basics. Oops, deleted too much of our equality statement. However, it doesn't cover the whole picture. So let's go ahead and add some more. As we can see here, we have equality versus identity. And first, we need to see if we are actually comparing the same classes. Like, we can't compare a student object to a teacher object. So we're going to do if and target dot get class is not equal to get class, then return false. And reason being, if we're trying to compare a student to a teacher, they would not be the same in terms of either identity or equality. So we'll just go ahead and continue past that one. Problem number 2, we might be passing a null value in the to be compared. So we can do if target, and remember, target is just what I named the to be compared here. So if target double equals null, actually, if target double equals null, then return false. Because if we're comparing them, we should be comparing them to something that's actually something, not just a blank. And problem number 3 is the two objects to compare are the same object. So instead of just being equal, they are actually identical. So here we just do another if statement. If target my apologies, you don't want to hear me just coughing, so we'll go ahead and continue. So if target double equals this, and this just points to, as we said, the student that we're comparing against the student that we're passing in as a target variable. And then we just return true. Why are we returning true here when we're returning false down here? Because this is actually checking to see if they're identical in the identity sense, or what they're pointing to, which if both of them point to the same thing, they can be thought of as identical. So we have our reference check, we have our null check, we have our class check. We don't have our cast and we don't have our comparison, but that's fine. I'm not too worried about it. So yeah, this is fine. Okay. Okay. Let's go ahead and continue. So that actually knocks out the very first piece, which is add custom equals and toString methods to the student class. Let's go ahead and do it to the course class as well. And the course class is up here. So the toString method, we can actually do public string toString, and we're just gonna return the course for plus topic plus comma taught by plus instructor plus and contains the following students enrolled. Now there's a couple of more things to consider here, and that is topic is a string, which means that we have access to it regardless. That's fine. However, instructor is an object. So if we don't want to get that weird string that we had with student, we would want to make sure that instead of instructor, we do instructor dot get first name or get last name, or even if there's a full name option, we would want to do that. The same for, oh, I forgot to add some more here. Plus, and here we would pass enrolled students. Okay. And for enrolled students, we would want to check the same thing to see if there's a way to get, depending on, it's an array list, to get the names of all of the enrolled students to function through here. Well, to actually be displayed through there. But that's kind of out of the scope of this assignment. If anyone wants to take a crack at it and wants to Slack me the answer, however, I'd be more than happy to review it and tell you why you're either right or help veer you back into the location to help get you to the right answer. All right. Our last piece here is we need to add our custom equals method. One thing to consider here is which fields should match in order to call the two course objects equal. Now, this is interesting because you can have various classes with the same topic, but that doesn't necessarily make them equal. You can have various instructors teaching the same topic. That's potentially an identifier. The enrolled students, I wouldn't necessarily call that as a solid piece of data to compare for the equals. So we're just going to go ahead and use the topic and the instructor. So we're going to do our comparison, which is up here, public boolean equals. Public boolean equals. We're going to pass, my apologies, course name. Okay. And now we're going to do the same thing that we did down here. So we're going to do a course target equals course name. Okay. And now we're going to just check to return. Now, this is where things are going to be a little weird. So we're actually going to do an and statement the same way that we did above. So we're going to do return. And let's see. We're actually going to do return target dot instructor double equals instructor. So here we're comparing that the instructor in our target and what we're being passed in matches the instructor in the object being compared. And target dot topic double equals topic. And you know what? I really don't like the name target, so let's change that to course. Course name. Yeah. Now all of this lit up like a Christmas tree in red. That's just because it's like, whoa, 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 what happened? So we'll just redo that as course name and course name. And we'll do the exact same checks that we did with student. So the very first one we'll do is if The very first check that we're going to do, and we can actually scroll up here, the method argument cannot be converted to an instance. So we're just going to make sure that they're of the same class. So if name dot get class is not equal to get class, then return false. We wouldn't want to try to compare an instructor to a course. All right, let's see. That's one. Our next check is a null check. So if name double equals null, then return false. And our very last check is going to be to determine if they're actually pointing to the same item. So if name double equals this, then return true. Hang on, I messed something up here. Yes, I did. There we go. And our semicolon here. So as we've already spoken down here, we are checking, we have our reference check to make sure that they're not pointing to the same item. Well, yeah. We have our null check to make sure that they're not comparing against the null, and we have our class check to make sure that they're both from the same class. If that is all correct, then it should run as expected. And that actually wraps up the remaining exercises for this exercise portion. So as you can see, nothing too complicated. It is worth taking a minute to read through the classes and objects section on the equals and the toString special methods. I would highly recommend it. But I do believe that this completes these exercises. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out. I am always here to help. If you can't find me here, you can find me on Slack, you can find me on Discord, you can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn. All of that is in the description. So, yeah, feel free. And I will see everyone in class. Have a great evening. Stay safe.